Welcome all. Hot on the heels of my last video, I thought I'd put another one up in rather quick sequence, mainly to keep the topic hot and rather than drag it out week after week and lose the momentum that it's got. I'm especially interested in letting those who have got the Crane 3S or who are contemplating getting a Crane 3S to see in more or less one hit what I've been doing to make the actual gimbal a little bit handier to use and ease some of the issues with regards to its weight and so forth. Not that it's actually reducing in weight. The gimbal now weighs 4.15 kilo with the additional handle and collar that I put on it, which is actually 0.05 kilo less more than the actual rig itself, which is 4.1 kilo. So I've actually got over 8 kilos of gimbal and camera now to haul around. But it's not as bad as it sounds. The modification that I did that I spoke of last video or the video prior to that with the small rig collar and handle, I'll put some details of the collar that goes on it and the handle, but they're basically available on a small rig site. If you look for accessories for the 3S and for top handles, you've got a plethora of top handles that you can choose from to suit your own needs. But what I've got now, as you can hopefully see there, is a side handle, as I showed you last time with the FeiyuTech AK2000, and it does work surprisingly well. It makes the picking up of the gimbal a lot easier. Now you've got a side grip there, so you can put it up and down on the ground or wherever, and here comes my hound dog now finally, and you can actually manoeuvre it around a lot easier in that. I took some video of my usual spot this morning, but dumb me, forgot to turn the recording on, which is something I'll talk about at the end. But I found that this handle is actually quite sturdy. It's going to wobble around a little bit on my hand, but it's actually able to be picked up and held like that versus much greater difficulty holding it from the back handle. So it actually does work quite well and gives you a lot of control, whether you're walking about, standing still or whatever, and you can especially get up a higher view a lot easier than before. And it most definitely makes picking it up and putting it down a hell of a lot easier than what was before because of the grip. And I also found that with the handle being on there, I can actually reach the focus wheel with my thumb quite easily, and that makes focus control a lot easier as well. So there's some benefits there. It's not a very expensive modification, and if you've got the Crane 3S and even some other gimbals for that matter, like my AK2000, it's something worth considering. It just gives you a little bit extra hand holding, and I think it's the better position rather than down on the shaft of a typical gimbal, which doesn't have a handle that comes out this way. So it actually does work quite well, so I'd definitely recommend people giving that a go if you want a little bit more control and the ability to pick up and put down the gimbal at various lower heights, ground or tables or whatever. So it does work. Now, a couple of other things that I've noticed in a couple of online sites that I've read about lenses, and the fact that some people say that focus by wire lenses won't work with these focus control wheels, or follow focus wheels. Now, that's not entirely true. I've got, with the Olympus camera, it has a 12 by to 100 mil zoom on it. It does have a mechanical clutch on it that allows you to give it a full mechanical throw, but if you take that off, put it into full auto, then the follow wheel will, or the focus wheel will just spin around. And I find with the AK2000 and the follow focus motor on there has no trouble controlling that and having basically end stops. And the 14 to 35 f2 that I have here, it's basically a focus by wire lens. It can be used mechanically, so that it doesn't need any power to operate, so you can focus with it mechanically, but it doesn't have a hard stop at either end. Yet, for some reason, the focus motor and the controller here will only go to the infinity and to the closest mark, so it doesn't overshoot that at all. So it's not a continuous thing. Why it seems to work on these, I don't know. My Nucleus Nano most certainly doesn't. It does need hard stops for it to find out where the end point and start points are. But with the two gimbals that I've got no problem. So there may be something about the gimbal motors itself that allows you to use the focus by wire lenses without having to worry about having hard stops on them. So that's sort of a good point, something to consider if you're a little bit worried about having focus by wire lenses on your gimbal. Now the other thing is that's a bit annoying, I guess, on my part, is that I can't control the focus with the phone app. Or the motors, focus motors, I can't control. If it was a camera which had focus control built in, then wirelessly, yes, by connecting all the wires you can do focus control, but you can't do that with the app itself. I contacted FeiyuTech about it, and I was actually interested in the little handle that they have. They've got an older one, they've got a very old one, which was lambasted quite a lot, being rather chintzy as far as build and operation. They built a second one which actually had a follow focus wheel on it, and it sort of didn't resemble this. It resembled more the handle that was perhaps on the FeiyuTech Hyperlink controller. I contacted FeiyuTech about that and asked them, will that enable me to control the follow focus motors? And they said no. So that's kind of weird. I really don't understand why, if it's got to emulate the focus wheel on the side of this gimbal, that it can't control the motors themselves wirelessly or whatever. So that's a bit of an omission there, which I think is kind of sad. And the only way to do it, apparently, and I don't think they got it quite right when they responded, is by using the motion control sensor, where you can buy the kit which connects to a monitor. You get the trans mount receiver and all that sort of stuff, and a little newer handle. But I think all that does is actually controls the in-camera motors, focus and so forth, if it's compatible. It won't control the secondary motors that come with the kit itself. I don't know why that's the case. I think it would be so beneficial to be able to control the focus and zoom motors with some sort of external device. So you don't have to necessarily reach down here. You could put the gimbal on the side somewhere, move it around, and then change the focus and zoom at will. But you can't seemingly do that at the moment, not with a Blackmagic Pocket 4K. The other thing that sort of gets me is that you can't get the quick release plates here with 3/8 threads. So I've contacted SmallRig, can make a sort of a similar one, but I think maybe even more positive. It's a bayonet type lock, quick release with a locking lever, but they only make them at the moment with a 1/4 inch thread screw and a 1/4 inch receiver hole. So I've contacted them and asked them if they could consider making it with 3/8 both ends, because then they'll be compatible with the Crane 3S. They responded back and said, yep, they'll pass it on, and I don't think it should be a big job for them to do that, because all they'd have to do is use their existing quick release mounts and replace the screw with a 3/8 and drill out the base of it with a 3/8 thread. So all the materials are already there. It's just a matter of changing what sort of screws go in there. So that would be good, because I'd like to have quite a few of those, so that I could put them onto the gimbal here, onto the external handle, and a few other things. And especially even if I want to use the Easy Rig, I can put one onto the top plate here and connect an Easy Rig connector to the other half. So it gives a bit of versatility, but I don't want to use 1/4 inch connections. I don't really think that they're ideal given the weight of this system itself. So we'll see what happens with that. I also received the Zhiyun belt that I spoke about, which is designed to sort of carry a bit like a flag holder's belt and frog that they use. Unfortunately, it's got quite a small mount for holding the thing, again with a 1/4 inch adapter, so I've got to fiddle around with that a little bit more. That might take some time before I can actually see how well it works and whether I can get it to work properly. And again, it's another little device where a quick release would be really, really handy. So I'm hoping SmallRig comes through and offers an option with either 1/4 or 3/8 threads on their products. Now, the thing that I mentioned with the video that I forgot to turn the video on is a real bugbear with me, because you have no external control with the camera, though you can do it with a phone. I showed the little app that you can use, which just starts and stops recording. It works very well, but if I add the phone and the phone holder that came with the Crane 3S, that's another 400 gram of weight onto the gimbal and the unit itself, and I really don't want to do that. I just don't understand why no one can make a little Bluetooth device, you know, similar to that, which is what they use, or which I'm actually using to start-stop recording with the mobile phone when I'm using either a Filmic Pro or the inbuilt camera and so on. this works perfectly. It just picks up the code straight away. And I know there's differences between what's built into the camera, but there are devices that people have been building, and rather than keeping something simple and making it just a start-stop record, every single one of them wants to put in features such as focus and iris control, zoom control, change ISO, change settings, which is madness, because all it does is makes the devices more complex, more difficult to manufacture and all the rest. I mean, why not just make something, say, like that, which is the Rode Go Wireless Go. There's no reason why you couldn't do that and just have a single button in there, so that you could connect it anywhere virtually on your unit, in your pocket or whatever, and stop recording. Whereas at the moment, if I wanted to do that, it'd be something like that, which is a real pain. But everybody seems to want to build the kitchen sink and the fridge and everything else into their devices, rather than just something very, very simple. One day maybe somebody will wake up and produce something that's just an easy thing to use that can connect. And even if you can't connect it directly, like with the phone to the camera, through a phone app or through a computer or whatever, is all you need, just to get the once only connection, and then you've got that Bluetooth thereafter. So that's one of the little issues. It's a bugbear that I've had for a long, long time with this, and it still is. And I'm just waiting for somebody to come up with something that is simple and works reasonably well. So that's all I've got to say at the moment. All I can say is that handle on the side makes a world of difference to the carrying and the use of the gimbal. As I said, I went out this morning. I didn't get a chance to show anything, but it's the same stuff that I've been showing in the last few videos, so that gets a bit tiresome after a while. But I have to say that it felt a lot easier to handle and move around. And the thing is that you can also, when you pick it up, if you want to do underslung mode, you've got two bits and pieces that you can hold on to even in underslung mode. So it just gives you that little bit more versatility. So it's not too hard to even hold it with the one. And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to lug around or twist around, but that handle does make a huge difference. So that's all I've got to say for today, and I hope it gives you something to go by and is reasonably informative. So I'll just say cheers.